and it starts right now. Good morning, and thank you so much for getting up with us. Jay Will is here. There's a bunch of basketball to get to, but we are excited to talk about the fourth question, and the answer is yes. That's a third down pass to Sanders. He had 7 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Here's another third down play. Tevin Coleman to the end, to the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, look, they can hit you in so many different ways. When Jimmy's playing the way he's playing, whether it be on schedule or off schedule plays, that running game you know is always going to be there.
Was that a first down? Kingsbury decides to challenge it. Almost no way they were going to overturn that, and they don't. So the Cardinals lose a timeout. Niners another chance to run it out. Here's your ball game on a 3rd and 9. Is Garoppolo going to run for it? No, he's not. He's going to dump it off.
Look, that's just a great job of pushing up in the pocket, making the defense kind of commit to you a little bit. You know Jimmy's not going to run. He's going to throw it every time.
They never give it back, and they stay unbeaten.
He's pretty good. I don't know why people don't think he is. He makes some pretty gutsy throws out there, doesn't he? Goodness gracious. I can't say enough about just how he brings us along, just whether it's on the sideline or in the huddle, and, the leadership that he has, but the fire that he, has too, he gets the people going. And just to see him, make those plays and, allow him to get those people off his back that, say, hey, maybe he's not, what we think he is. But, everyone in this building or in our locker room knows what he is. It's fun to see that.
Garoppolo, a big night, and he's got a new favorite weapon, and that's Emmanuel Sanders. In the last 2 games, Garoppolo's already matched his touchdown total, targeting wide receivers, and Sanders' 100-yard receiving game yesterday was the first by a Niners wide receiver all year. Garoppolo, again, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. So what are you seeing, Bobby Carpenter, in this offense right now?
I'm seeing a quarterback that looks confident. I'm watching offensive coordinator / head coach in Kyle Shanahan that is beginning to craft an offense to the skill set of his players. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders. That helped a lot, but you see how quickly they get the ball out of his hand and how well Jimmy Garoppolo is doing it. He's accurate. He looks like Aaron Rodgers throwing some of those slants. He's been getting the ball out quickly, and in doing that, it allows the run after the catch, and they have some elite athletes both at the tight end position and at the wide receiver now that can make those big plays.
Yeah, you look at what's happened in Atlanta since Kyle Shanahan left there, and their offense has really sort of fallen off the face of the earth. Mark, what are you seeing in Garoppolo? He hits that back foot, and the ball is coming out immediately.
He really does, and Lewis nailed it on the head. When you attack vertically in the pocket and you scare that defense, you attract the rush, you attract those linebackers dropping in coverage, and then throw the ball, it's dangerous. And give John Lynch some credit for getting him a new weapon in Sanders. This is huge. He's had his eye on him since Denver. John Lynch obviously knows Denver very well. That's a huge addition for them. It's going to help them down the stretch.
The Emmanuel Sanders acquisition could wind up being the most significant thing that happened around the trade deadline as we saw what he means for this team. But obviously, Lewis, when we talk about the 49ers, it really begins with their defense.
Yeah, look, the defensive line is driving the bus here. That is the engine for sure. Their defensive line coach is probably their number 1 acquisition that they made last year, a guy named Chris Kocerek. He is a Jim Washburn disciple. I watched them out in the joint practices out in Denver when San Francisco was practicing against them. He was getting after these guys in a way you just don't usually see in pro football. But now, it has become like muscle memory for these guys out on the football field. Look at how they run and chase the ball. Look at the fury with which they chase down passers. That's because that's how he has conditioned them to play. And they, without a doubt, have made the secondary better. Richard Sherman has admitted the secondary is better because of this D-line, because of the D-line play. And Chris is a major reason why. Robert Saleh, look, the defensive coordinator, for as much credit as he gets, the next guy who they should be mentioning, Chris Kocerek, the defensive line coach.
And right alongside him, maybe Nick Bosa. I have the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, sitting next to me. I've had Nick Bosa. Say whatever you will, whatever happened last year where he sat out those games, that guy is unbelievable.
When you mentioned him sitting out, and I think that's part of the reason why people forgot how good he was. You just didn't have a sample size last year where you're watching him, where like people look at Chase Young at Ohio State now, and you see how great he's playing. You look at his brother, Joey. I mean, these guys were both players of the week last week. They're so good. He's so skilled. He has all the athleticism you need. And, you match him up with Chris Kocerek right there. He's getting the most out of him.
So they stay unbeaten. On the other side, Bosa the number 2 pick. Obviously, Kyler Murray the number 1 pick. A quick moment on them. He comes in there. The coach comes in there. They were the worst team in football last year. They had the first pick for a reason. What are you seeing right now in him?
I think you're seeing him play within the context of that offense exactly how they had envisioned. Look, he's a guy who's a dual run pass threat. They need a bit stronger running game. The running backs were not healthy last night, so he really was one-dimensional. Although Kenyon Drake looks like that's a heck of a pickup for them. They need to build out the offensive line, continue to fortify the defense, which right now, look, you can score on it at will. Pat Peterson looked like a guy who last night hadn't played in a while. So they need some work. But the future is Kyler Murray, and they're going to be just fine.
What do you see from quarterback size?
Much better than I expected, right? I think we can all agree on that. I didn't know what to expect from Arizona. They were one of the worst teams in the league last year. But it seems like their offense is like just enough to get you within a couple points right now. They got to pick up a couple players and, like you said, boost up that offensive line and give them a chance.
He's doing it with a terrible offensive line. They have a bunch of injuries. So far, so good. But for the 49ers right now, that looks like potentially a Super Bowl team. We'll talk much more about them. Meanwhile, it's hard to know exactly what to say about this. Speaking publicly for the first time since ending his holdout yesterday, Trent Williams revealed he's been dealing with a cancerous growth on his head. According to him, the Redskins first treated him 6 years ago. He was told the growth was, quote, minor. Then this offseason, the team encouraged him to get further treatment, and that's when he was diagnosed with a rare cancer. Williams says now he doesn't trust the team anymore.
I mean, the lump continued to grow over the years, and I mean, it was concerning, but it was no pain involved. And, you know, if I'm being told by the very people who, you know, I put my career in the hands of, they're telling me that I'm fine, then I'm fine. You know, that's how I looked at it. They kind of underestimated it, and it was far more advanced than they had realized. And I don't think they realized how long it was there. It's a lot of emotions. I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't. It's a ton of emotions, you know. I almost lost my life. I even got to a bag. Like, seriously, like, I almost lost my life. Like, it was no, you 30, coming off 7 straight Pro Bowl, and the doctor tell you to get your affairs in order. It's not going to sit well with you know, and it still doesn't. And it's still, even thinking about it's a scary thing to go through, you know. Think how you can describe to your 9-year-old, 5-year-old that, you know, daddy might not be here. So it's tough.
Everything about that was so strange, for lack of a better word. The Redskins released this statement that says the Washington Redskins have requested that the NFL's Management Council convene a joint committee with the NFLPA to review the medical records and the medical care given to Trent Williams. The Redskins continue to prioritize the health and well-being of our players and staff. Due to health care and privacy regulations, we are unable to comment further at this time. We look forward to the joint committee's results. So, again, we're getting into an area here that's very difficult to understand exactly what to say and how to parse it. Almost feels like we should just let that side of it work itself out when we have all of the information. Then perhaps we can draw some conclusions. But from a football standpoint, it still does not make sense to me, and Lewis, with your front office background, that this is a guy who has made it clear he will not play for them. He is a valuable asset, and they did not trade him. Yeah,
it is tough to understand what they were trying to prove, what the agenda was as far as not moving him along, when clearly this relationship, I don't want to say it's not recoverable, because I don't necessarily believe it is not recoverable. I just think that there are certain factions within this football operation that Trent obviously does not trust. And if he doesn't trust, and there is valid reason for him not to trust him, then it's incumbent upon the owner and everyone else to kind of look into that area and go, hey, look, we have a franchise left tackle here. We've played a lot of money. And if he has a valid complaint here, it's our duty to kind of look into it. And I think that's kind of indicative of what's going on here, big picture with this team. They need to get their affairs in order and get their details in order, because they're not right now.
You were in that locker room. What did you make of all of this?
Listen, he's one of the cornerstones of your team. And, you know, not everybody's treated equally in an NFL locker room, but everybody's treated fairly. If you're a 7-time Pro Bowler, cornerstone of your team, either figure it out quickly or eliminate these kind of comments, this kind of interview, like just nip this thing in the bud and split up and go your separate ways before this, or figure it out quickly and save the egg on your face. You know, that's what I would have said.
Yeah, and so 6 years ago, you could hear the pain in his voice talking about it. I mean, there's some sort of misdiagnosis. How they handled it here obviously wasn't to his standards. The question that I'm trying to figure out with the Redskins is why they're even having this conversation now. Earlier in the season, they could have gotten pretty good value for him in a trade.
Great value.
He made it sound there's emotions involved. He wasn't going to come back. He wasn't going to play. And they're a team that probably wasn't going to go anywhere. So I don't know why they wouldn't have moved on and got what they could have at that point in time.
I really do think the bigger issue, though, is even before you get to the part of the discussion about trading him, what led to this point for the relationship to fall apart? And that is where somehow, some way, somebody's dropping the ball. As simple as that. Players don't say those kind of things unless they have an issue somewhere. Now, how far this issue goes, how deep it goes, we'll find out. As you said, you got to let a lot of facts come out. Yeah. But, man, I mean, there's a problem here, you know, kind of structurally that the powers that be need to get their hands around quickly.
We did our best to edit that interview so that you could get a real sense, but it was lengthy and it was surreal to have a player in an NFL locker room and you can hear sort of the jovial guys around, talk, and he's talking about having to get his affairs in order and tell his two little kids. It is a surreal circumstance in Washington. Again, there is obviously a lot more there to unpack, and we'll see where it goes. Meanwhile, a much more standard sort of mess, if you will, is the one in Cleveland, where the quarterback